if Hawaii gets hit with a disaster, are you prepared? Well, I have 3 experts today who will help us get ready for the next disaster. I want to welcome them from the Red Cross. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if each of you could just give us a minute on yourself and what inspired you to get involved with the Red Cross. 2 of you are volunteers,
Yes.
and Maria, you're on staff, right?
Correct.
Okay, so how about we start with Derek?
Well, I've actually been involved with Red Cross for about 2.5 years. I enjoy what I do. Also military and serving the country, and I just enjoy serving, giving back to the community. So that's why I'm just inspired just to continue on.
Great, well, thank you. Do you want to go, Maria?
Sure, yeah. I'm Maria Lutz. I'm a staff member at the Red Cross, the Director of Emergency Services, and I've been working here for about 20 years. And the reason I got involved was because I used to live in the Bay Area and experienced a few disasters there, an earthquake in San Francisco and major fires in Oakland. And it just really became clear to me that disaster relief is a very interesting and important piece of this society. So that's why I joined.
Great, thank you. Bernice?
I've been with Red Cross for a little, I think I made my 3rd year anniversary in February. I joined Red Cross following an event in 2006 with the 40 days and 40 nights of raining, and the Tantalus Mountain had a landslide that went into Mauna Loa Valley. And I went in to assist the family there because I was a close personal friend. And then we ate the best shoyu chicken that we ever had because these cool people with red vests showed up to feed us and hydrate us. And so that's how I got involved with Red Cross.
That's great. Well, 2006 is a good example of some really bad things that happened in Hawaii with the sewage problems in the Alawai and the Koloko Dam breach and then Tantalus problem as well.
Yes.
So in Hawaii, when we're talking about, before we get into specific tips, maybe you can just, when we're talking about disasters in Hawaii, you're basically busy all the time as volunteers, and Maria certainly on staff, where I know Red Cross responds to all kinds of things, fires and tsunamis and things like that. Maria, can you give a little overview of that?
Sure. I mean, we're always preparing for larger disasters, so we're always busy planning for hurricane response or tsunami response. But most often we're responding like every 4 days throughout the state. We're responding to single-family fires. And it seems like every year now we're responding to some kind of flash flooding response too. And that seems to happen anywhere in the state. Nowhere seems to be exempt from these types of disasters. So it's always a new neighborhood we're visiting, and so it's key that we have volunteers trained and are things ready to go in case we have to open shelters on short notice.
And I know we had a Red Cross show before, and I like to remind people that you rely all on volunteers and staff as well, but you also do not take money from the government. You only rely on private generosity from donors, from private donors. And so it's really important for people to be able to come out and support the Red Cross, whether it's by volunteering or by contributing.
Yes.
All right. Doug, you wanted to tell us a little bit what to do if you're a family and you know that there's a disaster coming, some kind of tsunami or earthquake. What do people do when they're family? How do they prepare ahead of time, and what do they do when there's an event?
Well, my upbringing was survival planning, and now I have a family of 6 children and 3 grandchildren. So that's family planning, and evacuation plans are very important in my family. We start off with an evacuation plan, knowing what kind of disasters your area is prone to and planning accordingly. So if you live in a flood inundated zone, or your area where you live is prone to erosion or lava flows, those types of events or disasters, that's the type of disaster you would plan for in case you have to evacuate your home in 5 minutes. You know, how would you evacuate? Where would you go? How would you meet up? A lot of people make their plans according to if the disaster happened at home, but people forget that not everybody's home all the time. So evacuation plans should include evacuating from work, evacuating, what the school's plans are for your children to evacuate, evacuating when you're traveling, things of that sort, and then making plans of where you're going to meet, especially if you're separated from your family members. Where's a good meeting place? If it's if you're evacuating from your home, meeting somewhere outside near your house, or if you have to meet somewhere out near in the community or the nearest shelter that's going to be opening up. And then the evacuation plan moves over to your family plan and asking the important questions and being mindful of our elderly and our children, because they're the ones that usually are marked as high fatality rates, you know, because they're not really included in the family plan of what to do. So planning, having a communication plan, knowing who to call, having an outside, out-of-state emergency contact so that all of your family members within your house knows who to contact to let them know what's going on, and they'll end up being your communication line. Developing a regular plan or a family plan that will involve a regular drill. I always try to emphasize to our families that when you're running a drill, you know, it's best not to run it during the disaster, because if you come across trouble points or trouble spots, you can't really fix it in the middle of an evacuation or in the middle of the actual disaster. So it's best to at least run through your drill once a year, if not a little bit more regularly than that. And then
a lot of people in Hawaii. I mean, it comes to somebody. We hear a tsunami's coming, or an earth, you know, or power outage, or an earthquake, or whatever, and people start to kind of get panicky. In some cases, they go in the gas lines, and the gas lines get really long, and then they go to the supermarket, and the line is an hour long, or everything's being taken off the shelf, and so and you know, of course, we know our favorites that get taken: the batteries, the toilet paper, and the water.
Well, and that's what we try to emphasize. So with our disaster kit that Derek is going to cover, part of your family plan is knowing what you and your family will need to take care of yourself, and then be able to be mobile to take that with you so that you can be self-sufficient until help comes, or until you can return back home. Just asking those important questions and having a plan, devising the plan, and executing the plan is my I guess, my platform of explaining to people what is important and how to go about it.
It's huge, and I'm sure the more people in your family, like with you, the more important that is, and pets and so on, to be prepared.
Yes, and there's a long list of things to do, so Derek is actually going to cover that, but so my part is just, you know, planting that seed and having people start asking the questions that pertains to their household, that will allow them to be able to protect themselves and protect their families, and how they're going to go about doing that.
Great. Okay, Derek, do you want to go into it? And if we have time at the end, maybe we can run through some scenarios that people would have, like if it's you're getting ready for a tsunami, or you're getting ready for some other disaster. Maybe we can run through that if we have time. But for now, let's start with the kit, because that's really important. Your survival kit.
Well, the kit. Actually, there's a couple of different types of kits that you really want to have, first off. Renee explained earlier, a disaster could happen at any time, anywhere. Depending on where you're at, you need to be prepared. And sometimes you need to just have a small kit that you can probably just put in your car. Nothing large, but something that's going to take care of you. And then at the same time, maybe something's going on. The wife is on one side of the town, and the husband's on the other side of town, and the children are way off some other place at the schools. So some of the things that I like to really encourage people about is, one of them here is the program the state has also, but it's identifying your children. And it's really important to get your children identified. In the event that you get separated and you're at a shelter, at least taking those little small steps, you've already accomplished a lot of things. When it comes to the shelters, which we would talk about, you know, there's a lot of different things going inside, registration, just a lot of things. But also with taking care of our children, and within their kits, they should have little small kits. Now, I like to encourage people to get little small backpacks. You know, you can get that for the children. And put some little toys, some things in it that keeps them occupied. Because when you go to a shelter, the last thing you want to hear is those children continually, mommy, mommy, daddy, daddy. And you're already trying to figure out what are we going to do next, what's our next step. So some things to keep them occupied as well. So those are some things that need to go into a kit for children. Don't forget the infants, you know, bottles, little small things that you need for your baby.
Ambisol.
Yes, Ambisol. Now, I will tell you, there's been many times I've asked the person, do you have a kit? Are you ready? And then I say, oh, well, if something happens, I can run around the house and get things. But like we said before, disasters are not just tsunamis or hurricanes, things that we could probably see and give you a half an hour, an hour, or sometimes 12 hours to prepare. You have those house fires where sometimes you have to get out immediately, and you don't have 5 minutes to get things together. A kit is something that you want to be able just to grab and go. And that way you have some things for your family. So that's one thing for the children. Also important members of the family are pets. And a lot of times people really forget about the pets. Katrina, there were so many pets that had actually lost their lives, and the families had totally forgotten about what are we going to do with our pets. Here in Hawaii, there are many shelters that are pet friendly, but there are many that are not. So that's really important that people plan ahead also. Bernice was talking about the planning. You go to the Humane Society and they can actually tell you what should go inside of your pet's kit. Okay, so just for instance, some things you need a leash and a collar, you know, the ID card and the license. Do your pet have any type of shot records, and how much food are you going to prepare for them? And every pet you need to have a kennel. There's a size with all those things. So if you just go to the Humane Society, their website, Hawaii Humane Society website, and they will actually be able to help you out. That's hawaiianhumane.org. So you go to the website there, make a kit for your pets. Now, let's get into our kit that we want to actually really sit down and do. First off, the family should be involved in creating the kit, not just one person. What I want to encourage people, you see my little big lighter, we do not encourage people to put candles inside. You light a candle and a wind comes along, probably blows something over, whatever, and then all of a sudden you have a fire in your hands. So we don't want to encourage people to have the candles. But what we do want to encourage people to do is you can have the flashlights. Now most people, they get the little flashlights and then they're trying to do things. You stick it underneath your arm, it's all awkward and stuff because you're trying to do other things. And I love fishing here in Hawaii. So we have our headlamps. You put that on your head and your hands free. You can do whatever you want to do now because you got the headlight there. So I really encourage people to get the headlights. Also, some other things you need to look at are, we have food packs. Now, you can go about getting all type of food packs. Red Cross actually, you go online, we actually have a lot of these things where you can purchase through Red Cross. There are other stores that you can get things from too. I encourage people to go out and look at that as well. But you have meal packs here. These are kind of like little small MREs, okay? And at the same time, water. Now, you have the little packs of water here. These are drinkable water, okay? So you also can have the water. Now, you need to have at least 7 days of a gallon of water for each person a day, okay? So you need to have at least that much. So if you have 5 people in your household, then you need to do the calculation and do I have enough water for the people in the family, all right? Some of the other things, medication. Once again, you're in a rush to get out the house. Last thing that people are thinking about is medication. So if you get that extra bottle of medication, you have it, you also put that in your kit so you're ready to go. If you're diabetic, you know you need the insulin. So you got to make sure you have what you need there. Let's talk about documentation. A lot of people own their houses. Now, a lot of documentation is important. In order for you to even start over again once a disaster has happened, you have to first be able to prove who you are. So a marriage license, or what about your house insurance, home insurance, who you are. A lot of that paperwork you need to have. I really like to encourage people to scan it and put it on a memory stick. Take that memory stick and put it inside your kit. You have it there, you're ready to go. When you get to that insurance company, you can pull it out and say, you know, I don't have my paperwork with me. I have all my documentation right here on a memory stick. It really helps out. Try to start over when you don't have anything. It's really hard.
Especially with our lines in our State Department of Health and so on, they're getting longer and longer. So
yes.
Very true, very good advice.
Yes.
Be a waterproof Ziploc bag?
Yes, it is. And it should be in a waterproof Ziploc. Thank you. It should be inside there. Now, also, what I like to encourage people to do is currency, small dollar bills. This is nothing more than a sandwich bag and small currency. I like to tell people to get at least about up to $100 currency inside there. Reason being, once again, is that electricity goes out on our island. We know how difficult it is. But when it comes back up, or say, for instance, the stores open up and you can't use your card yet. But they're open and say, oh, we'll let you purchase things, but you gotta have cash. So a lot of people don't think about the cash anymore. So now you're in line and everybody's upset, and we got this huge, the police have to respond because somebody's fighting with the store clerk. They're only doing their job. So, but definitely, you want to have some currency in there as well, all right? Now, this is a radio, no battery needed, no plug-in for electricity needed. All you got to do is take it out, wind it up, And as you can tell, you can see a little flat. You can actually see the light come on there.
I have one of those.
Okay.
Yep.
And they're great.
Yep.
Great things about, some of the things that I like about this, you got the flashlight on here, but it's also solar power operated. I can turn it on and listen to static right now. But actually, it goes into, you can hear what's going on. The other good thing about this, on the other side, I have a USB port.
Okay.
So when I turn this on, I plug it in, and I have my handy-dandy cell phone. The battery's getting low. Plug that in and just start winding it up, and it's great to help charge the cell phone up. Now, talking about cell phones, many times when a disaster takes place, people are usually quick to get on the cell phone and try calling. Well, it's so busy you can't get to it. But when you send that text message will actually get out there. So you want to make sure that you use text message to contact people on the mainland, even your family as well. So you have your cell phone as well. With the cell phone, some of the other things we have, your first aid kit, which is great to have for anything that takes place. Then you have we have what you call here your ready bath. Once again, we have no water. And you want to get, you want to be clean somewhat, somehow, some way. So you definitely want to have some of those things out where you can just wipe your body down. All right, so just a lot of different things in here that you can get creative with. I have some things like the earphones that you can plug in your ears. A hurricane comes around, makes a lot of noise. So you can put those earphones in there just to even decrease the noise a little bit. I like to encourage people to get can openers, the manual can openers. Once again, electricity is down. You have no way of opening your things up, unless you want to old school it and get the hammer and the screwdriver and go
Not
around,
really.
chisel around.
Not really.
And then, we can go with this all day, but I'm going to hit one more, which is a whistle. If you're stranded, the last thing I want to do is continue to yell for help. It gets tiring. You start losing your voice, and who knows who's going to hear you. But when you have that whistle and you're blowing in that whistle, it doesn't take a lot of air, and that sound travels a long way. So I really encourage people also to get a whistle, okay? So some of these things you want to take to your shelter. A shelter, Marie's going to talk to us about some of the things that take place at a shelter.
That sounds good. I just have one question. What is that? Is that a mask there, or? What?
Actually, yes, it is. You can get this at any local store. Once again, dust comes up, dust mask, anything like that. You can put that on also just to help, with your respiratory system. So you just put that mask on and you'll be good to go.
Great.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Very thorough job.
In shelters with people who come in sick,
Yes.
and you kind of want to protect yourself, or give them a mask too,
Yes.
if the ratio is them to all of us.
Definitely. Okay, good points. Thank you. All right, Maria.
Okay, so I just want to talk about shelters a little bit. So we open up different types of shelters for different incidents that may happen. A lot of us have heard about hurricane evacuation with Makani Pahili, the annual drill that happens every year in June. There's a lot of publicity surrounding that. So for hurricane evacuation, the safest place that the state of Hawaii has designated is the schools. And so most of the shelters are schools, and there's about 240 sites that have been designated statewide to serve as hurricane evacuation shelters. What's important to know is that there's limited space. Unfortunately, there's not enough room for everybody at this point in time who might want to evacuate. We don't really know how many people would evacuate, but there may not be enough space for everyone at this point. So the space would be limited. It would be about 10 feet per person. And that's really not enough room to set up a cot. So you would be most likely sitting in that space with your supplies. So all the stuff that Derek just outlined, you would be wanting to bring all of your kit to the hurricane evacuation shelter with you. As you can imagine, if you're there hunkering down during the height of a hurricane, there'll be other issues that may happen. For example, the power will probably go down. The water service might not be viable. The sewer system may not work at the shelter also, and it'll probably be really noisy too, so those earplugs will come in handy. So considering all of that, and you'll be in a tight space, it'll be just a time to ride out the storm. You're going to have what you want with you, okay, just to help yourself ease the anxiety and get through the situation.
Now, how do you know if you need to go to a shelter? Sometimes people might feel like they're okay in their home, or they might not be okay. How do you determine that?
There are some guidelines, and it's basically if you live in a home that is of single wall construction, in a single-family home, that could be a reason to evacuate because the structure wouldn't be strong enough to withstand strong winds. If you're in the storm surge zone, like if you live within the tsunami inundation zone currently, most likely, even for a hurricane, that would be a good area to evacuate because with the storm surge, that area could also be covered in waves. So that area would be likely to need evacuation. If you're in an existing flood zone, obviously due to the heavy rains associated with a hurricane, that would also need another area that would need to evacuate. Say also on exposed ridge lines, which a lot of us live on too, those areas also would probably have heightened wind gusts, and so they might be susceptible to higher winds, and so might need to evacuate from there too. And also, if you have an older home, if it was built before 1980, which again, a lot of us live in homes that were built before 1980, those homes may not be built to as high of a standard, as high of a building code, and so they may not be able to withstand the high winds. So all of those recommendations will go out through civil defense prior to a hurricane and give people some recommendations on who should be evacuating to hurricane evacuation shelters. Some of the other issues with the campuses, mainly high schools, will have some other designated areas where there could be areas specifically designated for pets. So we're lucky with hurricane evacuation shelters that there are already pet-friendly shelters that have been identified. For many of our other types of hazards, it's much harder to find facilities that will be able to serve as pet shelters. But with Red Cross and Humane Society, we're continuing to look for other options that can serve. So again, hurricane evacuation shelters, we would really just be trying to ride out the storm, and you'd want to bring all your supplies with you. Looking at other hazards like tsunami, the county civil defenses have all, they've all put out lists of where tsunami refuge areas would be located or where they'd be safe places to evacuate. And those are typically in county-owned areas. Parks and Recs facilities are normally identified for that use. And the main areas that would be open would be the parking lot, so people could pull into a safe area so they know where they'd be out of the risk area. And then there should be bathrooms and fresh water available there. And then for other types of incidents where there may be a need for a quick evacuation, maybe there's a police incident that's happened, maybe there's a wildfire or maybe some flash flooding, the Red Cross will open up evacuation centers, and those might be in county facilities. They're rarely in schools. We always try to avoid opening at schools if we can because we don't want to disrupt that normal schedule and prevent kids from going to school. So typically county facilities or maybe churches or other private facilities that we have agreements with. And so one of those facilities would be open. Sometimes the folks who are evacuated arrive before our volunteers are ready to open because the police have already got them on their way out of danger, and we're getting the call about the same time. So supplies may not be there initially, and it may take us a couple of hours to get food, water, cots, and other things set up. Yeah, and then looking at other types of shelters again, if people can't go back home for a period of time, and that could be for many different types of disasters where that could happen, then we call that a long-term shelter or congregate care shelter. And those are typically smaller facilities, and they're going to be broken into different areas where you'd have a set of feeding area, you would have dormitory areas with different segments allotted. You'd have a full medical area and a children's area, and it's going to mirror more of what your household would look like and get you closer to what normal living is like. So they're much different needs that are met through different types of shelters. Obviously, for the quick evacuation shelter, you're going to need to rely more on your own supplies. But with the longer term shelters, then more of those services would be up online again, and more would be provided for you in those settings.
So in terms of maybe getting prepared, how often should you check back in your kit and make sure the batteries are working or that kind of thing? I mean, do you do that annually and
I know
monthly?
Well, I know for myself, first off, I don't putting my batteries in anything like this headlamp here. I have about 2 or 3 of them already, but I use it for fishing. But like this one here, I won't put it in until I get ready to use it. You don't want the battery to actually start spilling the acid or anything inside. Now you start ruining that. Same thing with if you're going to go with the flashlight. Don't put the battery in until you're ready to use it, and make sure you got brand new batteries also. But every 3 to 6 months, I just go through my bag and look at some things. For me, I use mine for display so much that I have to continue to keep inventory of it. There's been times out in town, some of you know who you are, but there's been times out in town where I've left some things out and all of a sudden at the end of the show it's gone, so I have to go and replenish it.
So we're going to check you at the door, okay, when you leave.
But I definitely encourage people, they don't have to go out at one time and buy everything. But when you're at the store, pick up a couple of things here and there, you know. Just get some things for your bag and then slowly start just building your bag up. One thing that I did fail to mention, the supplies is your food and your water, like I said, 7 days at the most. Because that's almost about how long it's going to take before we get any help from the mainland that comes over. And you have to take into consideration maybe the airport may be damaged. Our seaport lanes may not be able to get ships inside of them. So we really are having to take care of ourselves. And the state is really hoping that people will at least provide their own selves with 7 days of food, at least 7 days of food.
So in my children's backpacks, because my children all have their own backpacks, and our drill, we usually run our drill whenever we hear the siren. So when they hear the siren, they have to go upstairs and they have to grab all of whatever stuff that is not in their emergency pack. Their emergency pack consists of some basic food supplies and snacks, but our bigger kit is the one with all of these mass supplies. And then our supplies are in a roller cooler, because a cooler is a flotation device as well. And depending on the situation, we can multi-use our rollaway kit. In the backpack clothing, my kids have to pack at least 1 long sleeve, 1 long pants for cold weather, short sleeve, shorts for hot weather. I always tell them underwear is optional, but that's kind of, that's to each his own, whatever.
Well, we're actually almost out of time, and that's not a bad way to end the show. On underwear,
Jacket, parka, and toiletries.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, thank you so much. What is the website, Maria, that people can look at to get information?
You can get more information on redcross.org and /Hawaii. And you can see what our Hawaii Red Cross supplies, what we recommend.
Thank you, and also go to the Humane Society website.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. I know it flies by, but people learned a lot from you today. I did, I know. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This has been News Behind the News. Aloha.